Trade Paper Hacks presents your pull preview for September 7th, 2016. Starting off with DC Comics, let's see what the Rebirth relaunch has to offer this week. Up first is CYBORG Rebirth number 1. It feels like every 6 months we get a new CYBORG number 1 as DC tries to solidify CYBORG as a heavy hitter in the Justice League. Expect DC to double down on that as CYBORG is set to appear in next year's Justice League movie. This book should be an interesting read because it's being written by John Semper Jr., who's never written a comic book before but is known as a screenwriter for various comic book cartoons. Add in awesome looking art and this book looks to be worth the gamble. Next from DC is Supergirl number 1. DC appears to be realigning their print efforts with the popular Supergirl TV show. This looks to be a much lighter take on Kara Danvers as she is a teenager who resides in National City, balancing high school while working with the DEO to take on superhuman threats. The book is being written by Steve Orlando, who is known for being an LGBT advocate, so his diverse sensibilities paired with Brian Ching's cartoony art style might be DC trying to hit that same formula that worked for Batgirl of Burnside. Now on to Marvel Comics. I've tried to avoid any of those wallet-draining Civil War II tie-ins. First up is Daredevil number 11. This Daredevil run from Sewell and Garney has been solid and you've been missing out if you're not reading it. Solid writing is paired with some of the best Daredevil art since Frank Miller. I swear that's a compliment. Old Frank Miller was good, kids. This is part 2 in the Dark Art storyline, so you'll want to pick up last month's issue as well. You know what? You should probably go ahead and pick up the first 2 trades as soon as they're available. This is a good book, and probably the most artistic thing Marvel's pumping out right now. Next up is Spidey number 10. Okay, hear me out on this one. A retelling of Peter Parker's early years might seem like reinventing the wheel for the sake of selling more wheels, but it's got a lot of the classic fun we aren't getting from the main Spider-Man book. When I read this book, I get the vibe that this is going to be similar in tone to what we'll see out of the next big Spider-Man movie. It's definitely more cartoony than that, but it doesn't keep it from being smart and incredibly well drawn. It's one of the few books that will get a genuine smile out of me when I read it. Marvel and DC aren't the only comic companies, folks. There's plenty of other awesome publishers. Debuting from Image Comics is GLITTERBOMB number 1. To say this book is about a middle-aged actress and a dramatic horror story about fame and celebrity-obsessed culture would definitely be underselling it. By a lot. This is actually a really graphic horror story with very present tentacle monster elements. It's so violent, I actually had to spend a bunch of time censoring the preview images you're seeing. The book's written by Jim Zub, who is famous for the Image title Skull Kickers and is currently working on Thunderbolts over at Marvel. It looks good, but it's definitely an adult-only title. Closing out this installment is Skyborn number 1 from Boom Studios. James Bond with magic. James Bond with magic. That's all I really need to say to sell this book. Imagine if James Bond had to fight dragons and wizards. Apparently there's some King Arthur legend thrown in as well. The book's written and drawn by Frank Cho, who is the excellent penciler behind the recent totally awesome Hulk over at Marvel. James Bond with magic. And that's it for this week's pull preview. Remember, these aren't the only books coming out this week, so be sure to tell us what else we should read in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, and tune in next week for the next pull preview from Trade Paper Hacks.